Welcome to Arise Life, a community of believers being equipped, empowered, and released into their destiny. For more information, go to ariselife.org or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
Today's message, for a while, I had a lot of pieces of it, but I did not have the title, and I wasn't entirely sure how it all fit together. I felt like I was taking to the Lord. I was talking to Brian last night, and I was like, I feel like I have a handful of puzzle pieces, but I don't know what order they go in. But so today's message is called Choosing Freedom. And it is something that the Lord has really been teaching me. And I do believe also the whole Friday group and now the Saturday group and a lot of the groups, the marriage group, we've all been exploring this idea of freedom and what is freedom. But one of the things the Lord has been challenging me with is the fact that we have to choose freedom. It's already been given to us, but we often still live in places not of freedom because they feel comfortable. So if you look at this image, so often we have just decorated our places of bondage, and we have made them cozy. I don't know, you probably can't read that little sign, but it says better safe than sorry. There's another sign I thought about putting there, and it was a little too on the nose. We may talk about that one later. Man, there are days where I want to be in there. I want that place, even though it's bondage, it feels safe. And it feels cozy, and I don't have to think about what's on the outside. It's small, and it's familiar. But like Masha was saying earlier today, like we have to tell our soul what to do. We have to tell ourselves to rise up and to step into the freedom. So to start with, I want to ask some questions, and I'm going to have my loyal scribe come help. So, Caleb, I would like you to draw a line down the middle. Okay, and on this side, we are going to write things God has set me free from in the present. And in a minute, I'm going to have you yell some of those out. But first, I do want to share Galatians 5:1, which says, and I don't know if it'll be on the screen, but Galatians 5:1 says, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery." So often, we give up that freedom that God has already paid for, and we let ourselves again be yoked by things that enslave us. But so, what are some things in this present life, in this present moment, that God has set us free from? Whether we're walking in it or not. Like, what should we have freedom in right now? Not like in heaven, but like, what should I have freedom from right now?
Sin.
Okay, hold on. Sin, fear, shame, condemnation, addiction.
Depression.
I heard anxiety, depression, sickness, pride, disobedience, want. Okay. So if you'll pull up the first, I kind of did my own little version of this. So things God has set me free from. So you guys have matched a lot of mine. Shame, rage, hatred, bitterness, unforgiveness, lies I believe about myself, lies I believe about others, hopelessness, past trauma, rage, everything that holds me captive. Okay. But now we're going to talk about something that keeps us over here. So on this side, Caleb, I want you to write things I will encounter in this life that are hard. And I want you guys to begin thinking about the promises God has given us that we don't like and we don't want to talk about. So, we've been promised many good things. We have promises that God will be with us, that He is for us, that we have hope and a future. But what are some of the promises that we don't want to remember? Trouble, suffering, trials, waiting. Trouble, suffering, trials, waiting. Rejection. They may hate you. Slander. Betrayal.
I am not good enough.
Not being good enough. Here. Failure.
Apathy.
What was that one? Apathy. Apathy, A-P-A-T-H-Y. Let's go with it. Okay, this is a good one. Again, okay, thank you, Caleb. Can you pull up that other one? So the Lord had me make my own list. Pain, loss, sorrow. The Bible calls Jesus a man of sorrow. Grief, trials, persecution, being misunderstood, hurt, heartache, hardships, insults, the devil looking to devour us. So this is real encouraging, I understand, but personally, I would like God to deliver me from these things. This is what I want God to deliver me from. And often, I use these things to try and save me from these things. So the things I should be delivered from, I'm inviting back because I don't want these things. And that's really hard. I want to escape things like trouble and pain and hardship and hurt and grief. I would try to avoid these. Now, don't misunderstand. Our prayers are powerful and effective in this area. And our faith can move mountains. But when we go to fear before faith, we lose the freedom that we've been given. First, we need freedom from fear and shame. And as I was looking at this list, so many of these things for me all boil down to fear. Like, shame by itself isn't as big a deal, but because I'm afraid of what the shame means or you finding out about my shame, I don't deal with it. But because I'm afraid of condemnation, I don't do what I should do, what God says to do. Because I'm afraid, I try to avoid things. Because I'm afraid of this, I try to avoid. I end up in addiction, So fear is something that really comes and tries to take our lunch money. It is the root of so much, and it promises us something it can't deliver. It promises us, oh, if you just listen to me, you won't have to deal with this. But we have God's promise that we will encounter these in our life. So fear is really selling something it can't deliver on. There are hard things that are happening in the world right now. Peter's been sharing a lot of what's going on in Ukraine. There are hard things that I've walked through, that you've walked through, that we're walking through right now. And we would really, really like to avoid them. We'd like to say, and we agree with God when we say these are bad. When God created the world, none of this was there. And we have a promise, again, that in the future, it won't be there again. There's a verse in Revelation 21:4-5. It says, and he will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. And he who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. So, there is hope. He's making everything new. But we still live here and now. We still live here and now. And there are some verses that we, would love to skip. But in James chapter 1, verses 2-4, it says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And then John 16:33 says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. So he's telling them all these things they're going to have, but so it's not so that they're afraid. It's actually so that they'll have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. When I was looking at that verse in James, I was thinking back to shortly after Brian and I got married, and I think we'd recently heard a message on that verse. And I even thought about finding the letters today, but for a while I had the words count it all joy like on my mantelpiece. But I don't think I really understood. Like I was like actually trying to be like, oh, like trials are... I didn't understand the freedom to walk through trials. Not that the trials themselves are good, but that when I walk through the trials with God, nothing can get at me. None of the pain of it can get at me if I can feel the pain, but it doesn't consume me. It doesn't overwhelm me. It doesn't take me captive when I walk through it with the Lord. The trials and the pain, they're not what is good. They're just what is life. And God wants us to learn to walk in freedom in this life. And if we cannot walk in freedom in the midst of these things that we are promised, we are not living life. Freedom is not the absence of hardship, it's how we walk through hardship. And if hardship is promised and guaranteed, then the question becomes, how do we respond to that reality? I, in the past and still today, in a number of places, I have trouble moving forward in trust. Instead of moving towards trust, I want to move towards control. That little picture, that little cell, I have control in that cell. I may not have control of anything outside of that cell, but in that cell, I can pretend I have control. And I can try to keep all the bad things on the outside and wall myself off. The other thing that popped into my head when I was looking at that little sign in the jail cell was a phrase that I've heard used before, better the devil you know. And man, that hit me. I was like, there's too much truth in that. We get familiar with things that the enemy is doing in our life. And we actually are like, I like this better, Lord, than what you're saying is good over here. This thing that the enemy has told me is going to keep me safe, I would rather stay here because it feels safe and better than what you're asking. It feels better. And so I am judging and saying, you're not as good as this. Like, you're not as good as this safe space. Fear will disguise itself as wisdom. And the Lord gave me this funny little picture of how we keep fear as a pet. And he gave me this picture of this yappy little chihuahua. Man, fear is real noisy. It will tell you, it'll yap, 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 yap. But if there's actual real danger, can that chihuahua really do anything? I mean, it may try, but it has no power over anything. You have more power over anything than that little tiny chihuahua does. But we like to pet it and we like to be like, oh, like this is good, you know. And we try to make decisions to avoid pain instead of following God. And the Lord was challenging me, and has been challenging me, that the things I hold most closely are often the things that end up making me enslaved. Because fear tells me to protect them. The things that are most deeply rooted in my heart, that I care the most about, that's where fear can come and say, you've got to do everything in your power to keep this safe. I shared a couple weeks ago on a Facebook Live about the rich young ruler, and I don't think, while the Lord does use that to talk about wealth, the Lord used it to say to me, He's coming after whatever you're holding, whatever's the closest thing, whatever you need to protect. That man had a lot of wealth, and so he didn't know. There was a lot of fear. Like, if I let this stuff is all protecting me. If I let it go, what? Like, I've got to protect my wealth because it's protecting me. But for me, the Lord is coming after some things in my heart that are so deep. A couple weeks ago, I woke up and all of a sudden fear had gripped me about my kids. Fear gripped me so hard. And I was like, oh, this is an attack of the enemy. I need to just pray against it. And the Lord's like, do you remember the question that came up before the fear hit? And I was like, no, I just remember the fear. Just the fear. And he said, I asked you a question before it hit about trusting me with your kids. And immediately, I asked you a question. What happens if your kids experience trauma? And I said, I don't like that question. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. In fact, I thought we had some kind of arrangement made where I do X, Y, Z, and my kids don't experience trauma. In fact, I would really like that arrangement to stand, whether you intended to make that arrangement with me or not. And if you're not going to promise me that, then I'm going to have to start making choices. if what I thought was true, that you're not, if this isn't your promise to me, then fear's like, okay, so that's not his promise to you. So now what are you going to do about it? I'm like, well, there are some plans I need to change because I made them with the understanding of no pain. Wow. And me and I have had to talk through and work through this with him and step over fear. Because part of me is also afraid, like, you're talking to me about this means it's happening. Like, if we're talking about this, that means there's something coming. What's coming? And then there's a whole nother level of fear. Like, okay, it's imminent. And he's like, I'm not talking to you about this because something is happening. I'm talking to you about this because it is a place in your heart that if I ask you to do something, it's going to get in the way. Not because there's a guarantee of it, but because I can't ask you to do some things and have you say yes willingly as long as it's still in your heart. So I have a fear that God won't be good in the way that I want for my kids. I am afraid of what they might have to experience. And he's like, do you also believe that if they experience trauma, I'm not going to turn it for good? And I was like, that's there too. Bondage does not always look like rebellion. It often looks like protection. The place where I take care of my kids, like, that looks like protection. It looks like wisdom. But in my heart, there's some bondage. My love for my kids is not the problem. My fear that God isn't as good to them as I would be is the problem. You know, it's funny, that song that we sang today, that Bless the Lord, O my soul, that used to be, when Caleb was a baby, that was the only song that would calm that child down. And he cried a lot. And I sang that song to him a lot, especially in the car, because he hated the car. And every time I got to that last verse where it says, and on that day when my strength is failing, I had to face the mortality of myself and my child. Over and over again. And back then, my vain imaginings were pretty good. Nowadays, I try really hard to keep my imagination available to the Lord instead of the enemy. But back then, my imagination was wrapped up in all the ways things could go wrong and all the ways we could be singing that song at our funeral. Like, just totally honest. Like, every time I sing that song, I think someday we'll be singing this at a funeral. But it's still an amazing song. The heart of it is really good. But I can totally find in my imagination that there will be a day where there is pain and suffering. Because it's part of where we live. We live in a place where sin entered and all these things entered, and Jesus came to show us how to live in them. And he said, instead of letting this control you, I have freedom for you so that you can walk in this life. And you can be like Paul, where he's like, I've learned what it is to be content in all circumstances. Not that I do not want to sign up to be like Paul, just to be clear. Just to be clear. But I don't get to choose. I don't get to choose. And if I am called to live that life, man, I don't want to live it from fear. But sometimes, and I do feel like this is some of what the Lord was challenging me with, this area of my kids and fear for them was an area that, to a degree, I had already submitted. I've already been making decisions based on not going to fear. But then all of a sudden, this light on the dashboard came on. And now I'm like, okay, start to panic. But nothing there was wrong. Like, nothing currently is happening to my children. Thankfully, they're all right here. They're all safe. At that moment I was hit by fear, they were all asleep in their beds. You could see them on their little cameras. I'm like, everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everybody is safe. And I was thinking, the Lord was talking to me. He talks to me situationally. We had to take our car into the shop this week. Our van and the catalytic converters needed to be replaced, and the O2 sensors. And I knew nothing about any of these things before the Lord started talking to me about it. Even while I was at the shop waiting to get the car, the guy comes back and he's like, so the O2 sensor is bad, but we've ordered a new one. It's coming. Can you wait a few more minutes? And I was like, sure. But when I tried to tell Brian, I was like, I don't know what sensor is bad. Like, what sensor is it? Is it tire monitor? Like, I'm like, I don't know. I'll have him write it down for you because I don't know what sensor it is. But when the Lord started talking to me about it, so it was a rear O2 sensor, which until the Lord started talking to me about, I did not care, and many of you may not. But the rear O2 sensor, even if the sensor's bad, if the catalytic converters are good, the O2 sensor can tell you something's wrong. Now, it will start to make it apparently less fuel efficient. Again, all of this I have just learned in the past 24 hours. I know very little about my car. But they got the wrong sensor. The guy's like, tries to install it. He's like, they sent me the wrong sensor. This isn't the right sensor for the car. But you can drive it home. It's just fine. I'll have the right sensor tomorrow. But I'm driving home in the car and the check engine light's on. So sometimes there actually isn't a problem, but our sensor is saying there is a problem. There's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem. And sometimes we have already done a lot of the work, or there really isn't a problem. It's just that fear is screaming at us. And we just need to replace that sensor. That sensor's a little bit sensitive. The sensor's there to tell you there might be a problem, but not that there is a problem. If I were to believe that sensor as I'm driving home, then I might think the work wasn't done properly, or something else was wrong. Now there's another problem with my car. When in reality, there really wasn't a problem. It was just that sensor. A lot of times fear likes to scream at us like that sensor. And sometimes it's telling us there really is a problem, and we need to ask the Lord what to do about it. But sometimes fear's just trying to get our attention, distract us, get us all worked up. Because fear, who brings fear? And I would say maybe the enemy just takes fear and turns it into terror. Because fear does have its benefit. I mean, God designed fear because he wanted us to recognize that we have value and not do dumb things. But when that fear becomes terror and you start making choices because of it, the enemy has got your number. And one of the things that I have learned this year and in the past 2 years is that fear robs me of the present, of the joy of the present, by talking about a future pain that may never happen. You know, if I had never gotten that trampoline, no, I know you love the trampoline. If I had never gotten the trampoline because fear held me back, so much joy that my kids experience, they're out there every day. Their friends come over, they're on it. Family comes over, they're on it. So much joy would be missed out on because of my fear. Does that mean that pain could also happen? It can. But am I going to sacrifice all of the joy because there might be one moment of pain? There's like many, many moments of joy. It could be that there is one moment of pain. Will I sacrifice all of this so that doesn't happen? So when I tell the truth about my fear and invite God, I begin to see also the opportunities for good, not just harm. And then I have a choice. Am I going to choose fear, or am I going to choose the good that could also come? Romans 8:28. Oh no. Maybe it's Romans 8:35. Romans 8:35 through 39 says, "Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship, persecution or famine, nakedness or danger or sword? As it is written, for your sake we face death all day long, and we are considered as sheep to be slaughtered." And then it goes on and it says, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, nor height nor depth, nor anything in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." None of those things. But you know how we separate ourselves from the love of God? We listen to fear. All these things have no power over us, but we have the power to choose to stay locked in our cell of fear. And does that mean God has stopped loving us? No, but we're not experiencing it. I know I've shared with you guys how I used to pretty much never, I didn't drive. I can't even remember the number of years. It was probably at least 8 where I didn't drive out at all. Probably not once. And then occasionally I would drive because I had to. If Brian was going on a business trip, I would. And, it's really funny because I had normalized that. I had said, oh no, I don't have any trauma in my life. Now I look back and I'm like, it's a pretty large response. Whether or not the actual moment, the actual event that caused me to say I'm not going to drive was actually really trauma as anybody else would define it, what my life looked like was a trauma response. Yeah. And I was just thinking the other day how crazy it is that I drive now without fear. Like, I didn't go through any therapy or desensitization or... I just suddenly saw it, the truth of it, for what it was. When it was just normal, and I mean, sure, probably inconvenient, and it robbed a lot of things from me, but I didn't want to talk about that because then that meant there was a problem. Like, when I recognized there was a problem and God said, "Do you want freedom here?" And I was just, I don't have any trauma in my life, but we have the power to choose to stay locked in our cell of fear. And does that mean God has stopped loving us? No, but we're not experiencing it. barely able to submit and say, yes, I would like freedom here. But I didn't get trapped in the tomorrow, and I stayed present. The only way I got free of that was by staying present. Because I can still find fear for tomorrow's driving. If you talk to me about driving on the interstate, going through the interchange to 285, I can find some fear. I can find that fear. But when I get in the car and I'm driving, I cannot find the fear. Even when I get turned around. Even when the car starts doing funny things. Because at some point I decided I would choose to believe that God would be with me more than I chose his fear that everything would go wrong. And even believing that, that's a gift from God. But I had to say, yes, I want it. Like, I didn't drum up that. Like, the Lord's like, do you want freedom here? I was like, I'd like to talk about it. I'd like to talk about it. And he's like, okay, it was very much a step-by-step process. It was like, okay, if you would like freedom, let's go drive to this one little place. Okay, I can do that. Let's not talk about the future. Let's just talk about right now. I don't know what fear is trying to come after you. You don't have to deal with fear about tomorrow. Like, let's just start with fear about today. And don't borrow tomorrow, because it's easy to say, well, if I say yes today, then I'll have to say yes tomorrow. You don't. Just start by saying yes to stepping over fear today. Just the tiny baby step. It is a daily choice, but you get to make it daily. You're not deciding now for tomorrow. You're deciding now for today. Thinking about that, I don't like calling it trauma because I feel like there's bigger trauma. But it was a trauma in my life that caused me to stop driving. And the Lord was talking to me, again, situationally this week, about how when a part of the body is damaged, you need blood flow. The more blood flow you get to that area, the faster it heals. And he was talking to me about this because we were at the chiropractor and Brian had a hurt shoulder and he was cupping it and all the blood was rushing to it. And the Lord was like, in a lot of injuries, if you're bleeding out, you put a tourniquet on it and you stop the flow of blood. And he's like, you'd put a tourniquet on that, you stop the flow of blood, and you never release that tourniquet. And that area had died, like literally died. And I'm like, that's true. Like, that many years of not driving, that is like a literal death. The only reason there was life there was because God brought the life back. But if we're afraid to undo that tourniquet and let blood rush to it, there's no healing that's going to happen. If we continue to say, okay, I'll talk about it, but I'm not taking that off because that keeps me safe from bleeding out. Well, that killed the entire thing. That killed it. Because, yes, it is a life-saving method to put a tourniquet on if somebody is bleeding. But you need to get them to a doctor within a certain amount of time. And then the doctor has to do his work and take that off and put some blood transfusions in you. Like, he's got blood transfusions for all of us. He's got more than enough blood to heal all the areas. Because his blood speaks a better word. Even if it's dead, his blood speaks a better word. Like, I'm here to tell you there was an area of my life that was dead, and it is now alive. And I can't find the dead parts.
Thank God.
Very briefly, I want to talk about some examples in Scripture. The Lord was talking to me about Abraham in Genesis chapter 20. In Genesis chapter 20, Abraham has already been through a whole lot of things by that point. He's already followed God. He's left his home. Then he made a mistake in Egypt where he claimed his wife was his sister, but they made it out. Then they made it to the land, and he was blessed, and he got blessed by Melchizedek. And then he refused to take the wealth of Sodom. Like, he had so many victories, so many victories, so many victories. God made a covenant with him, and he even talked to God and saved Lot and his family. Okay, so the chapter after he saves Lot and his family from destruction, having talked to God, it says, "Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife, 'She is my sister.' Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her." So he's already done this once. And then he's had all this victory between there and now. And now he's back. And sometimes fear will do that to us. We have to be on guard against where we have listened to fear in the past. Because it will come back. The Lord's going to give us a chance to do it right. But that fear will also come along and say, "Oh, you remember last time? Let's do it that way again." So then in verse 9 through 13, then the Lord the Lord probably has been talking to Abraham, but clearly he's not listening. Because we already know the Lord talks to Abraham. He came in person and talked to Abraham about Sodom and Gomorrah. But instead, the Lord had to go to the king Abimelech in a dream and basically say, "You're a dead man for having Sarah in your house." So then Abimelech is like, "I have done nothing wrong." So he calls Abraham and he says, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom?" And Abraham said, "I said to myself, surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister." We have all these excuses, like I've got them too. She really is my sister. And, I told her to tell you that she was my sister. So it's interesting because he believes there's no fear. So his fear is they're going to kill him because he believes there is no fear of God in this place. And there may not have been. But actually, the king had a dream and the fear of God hit that king. So there was fear of God in that place. It was a lie he was believing that caused the fear to happen anyway. And how often do we believe a lie and then we listen to fear when God really wanted to give us victory? And God does give him victory anyway. I mean, man, that's the good news of this story. Abraham leaves there a wealthy man because he's like, "I take this, and take this, and take this." But I want to show you a contrast in Daniel chapter 3, verses 10 through 18. So this story is where Shadrach, Meshach, the king has made this golden statue. And he's told everybody has to bow before this statue. And so the report has come to him, "There are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, your majesty. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up." Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold? Now when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, or harp, if you are ready to fall down and worship the images I made, very good. But if you do not worship, then you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" Nebuchadnezzar's already he's telling him, here's the fear you can have. Who's going to save you from my hand? But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, Your Majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. Man, that hits me so hard, that even if he does not part, hits me so hard with my kids. Even, do I trust God? Even if he doesn't show up the way I say he should or will. Yeah, this is a real place. But I have a question. Who was more free? Was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego more free, or was Abraham more free? Because Abraham let his fear control him. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they said, whatever you want. We hold nothing. Whatever. But it feels like, man, freedom looks really dumb. Like, the Lord gave me this picture of like tandem jumping out of an airplane. And I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I would never want to jump out of an airplane with somebody strapped to my back. I have zero control. First of all, they're pulling the parachute cord. I am pulling nothing. So it's like the Lord is asking us to tandem skydive with him. He's saying, hey, you don't need to even worry about the parachute. And we're like, what do you mean I don't need to worry about the parachute? I do need to worry about the parachute. It's my job to make sure I live. Like, how many of us, like, it's my job to make sure I live. It's my job to make sure the people and the things I care about are safe. And God's like, how about you just let it all go? We'll jump out of the airplane. I'll take care of everything. We're like, that is dumb. I don't know who decided that skydiving was a good idea. But anyway, they must have trusted God. Freedom is found in surrendering outcomes. I can't have freedom as long as I need to control the outcome. But the thing is, you can't control the outcome. You're just controlling the way you think you can control the outcome. You don't get to actually control the outcome of anything. But you can't control that. But you can learn to hear God and obey him moment by moment. You can choose your attitude in the midst of it. You can do it kicking and screaming, or you can do it willingly. And you can choose your response to the outcome. But if I need a certain outcome and that doesn't happen, then my response is not going to be very positive. Will you pull up there's an image about the cost of freedom. So freedom is a gift from God, but to take hold of it, you have to let go of everything you're trying to hold on to. And so many of us are trying to hold on to everything, trying to bring it all with us. We're trying to hold on to the fear, the past hurts, the pride, the control, the outcomes, other people's opinions. And he's like, actually, those are the things that are holding you in bondage. You can't have freedom and those. That's the cell. Do you want to be in the cell, or do you want to be out of the cell? The cell seems very safe, and outside of the cell, I don't know anything could happen. Anything could happen. But also anything good could happen. Anything God could happen. In the process of, well, first I want to say, I have been in that cell thinking it's keeping me safe. And I have stepped out of that cell, and I have experienced the freedom. I've done it with a number of things. You've heard some of them, the trampoline story, the driving story. But let me tell you, nothing on the inside of that cell actually compares to the freedom on the other side. Man, so many things I missed out on because I did not drive. So many things that I said don't matter. But now that I know that I can, I'm like, those things mattered. And I missed them. And not that God can't redeem. Man, he can redeem. But I get a choice about today. Do I want to miss what God has today? Okay, so while I was looking at this, the Lord was talking to me. We need to both submit and surrender. And a lot of times we start with submission, but he was talking to me about the difference between the two. Submitting, we're yielding to what God says. Sometimes it's with reluctance. We're saying, okay, I'm going to obey you, but I'm just doing it because I gotta. It's often external or behavioral. It can be dutiful. It can be strategic, like, okay, I will obey, but then I expect you, Lord, to hold up this end of the bargain over here. You keep my kids safe, I do this. We square? The alignment is an action, but sometimes our hearts are still like battling with the Lord over things. And submission is not. We are called to submit. It's a good place to start. But it's not what the Lord's really after. It says, I will obey. And the Lord wants our obedience. He does. And it's a good place to start if you can't get all the way there. But surrender is what we really need to go after. It's a heart level, completely letting go, wholeheartedly. I am no longer my own. And with it, when we stop fighting, then that's where the Lord's peace and freedom can come. Will you pull up the slides with the verses? Submission looks like submit yourself to God, therefore to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. There is benefit in submission. If that's as far as you can get today, get to submission. Like, that's fine. Get to submission. Submit yourself to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. And Peter, he gives the one I like. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so at the proper time he may exalt you. I go, that's okay. I'll humble myself, but there better be the exalting on the other side. Like, so you're saying on the other side, I get something? But then surrender is what we're really called to. If you'll go to those verses. Galatians 2:20 says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live. But he lives. Christ lives in me. Romans 12, present your bodies as a living sacrifice. Daily, lay it down. Holy and acceptable. And in Luke, Jesus says, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. I don't know, I feel like we've been sold a watered-down version of the gospel in America. It promises things that it shouldn't be promising. It promises us prosperity. Where in the Bible? Jesus is like, I have no home. Like foxes have homes, but you follow me. I'm not promising you we're going to have, he does tell the 12, those of you who have left these things, you'll have, I will bless you. But, that's not why you do it. I will take care of you. There's promise that he's going to take care of us. He's not just follow me and we'll see if we make it somewhere. He's like, no, we got places to go. It's probably not going to look like what you're looking for. If you're looking for the health, wealth, prosperity, this is not what Jesus promises. He's called us to come and die to self, to be part of a body, to be in unity, we have to die to be in unity with each other. We have to prefer others to ourselves. We have to lay down all our fears. If the Lord calls me to do something that asks me to risk my family, am I going to follow God or am I going to protect my family? Like, the gospel is laying down everything here. Not because God wants to make our lives hard, but because he has something better we can't even imagine. Because what we think is good here is just barely existing. Like, we just want to get through today. And God's like, I want you to be able to encounter any circumstance and be okay. Not just okay, be praising me, be taking territory. Yes. Like, that is the gospel. And that is, I don't know, this other gospel, it just feels so lacking when we could have this, when we could have the freedom to go anywhere, to do anything without fear. But the Lord will not force you. The door is open. Can you go back to that first slide? The door is open. The door to your cell is open. But he's not going to force you to come out. He's not going to drag you kicking and screaming. He's going to probably try to talk to you about it. Sometimes I'm really good at being like, I don't hear you. We have a lot. Before he took away all my escapisms, I was really good at drowning out that voice. Man, I was really good at being like, oh, you want to talk about that? I'm going to go read a book. There's a story over here that doesn't involve any of that. Oh, you want to talk about today? No, thank you. I'm going to go plan a trip. I'm going to go plan a vacation so I can dream about what. I'm going to challenge you with a truth that I have discovered, that God is so much better on the other side than you could imagine. And I am just going to ask you to take a risk, to take a baby step outside of whatever the cell is that is holding you. Because our future isn't promised. Would your faith stand up in Ukraine? Because we aren't promised. Like, we have this understanding in America that, like, oh, we're going to always just be safe and can live in my little house and have my perfect little. And maybe God will never call you to a place as hard as that. But if your faith won't get you through the hard things, it's not genuine. And there's so much you're probably missing out on even here, in this beautiful, amazing place we've been put, if you're trapped by fear. Just like I was. My life looked beautiful on the outside, but I was missing so much because I was not willing to take the step out. But now that I'm on the other side, why would I stay there? Why would I believe?
Cozy.
I know, it's cozy. I'm about ready to go curl up in that cell. Like, it's got plants. It's got, oh.
Somebody bringing you food.
Yeah. It looks real good. The door before you today, the enemy will tell you it's not worth it. He'll tell you it's not worth it. But abundant life is on the other side. Fullness of joy is waiting. Where is fullness of joy? It's in his presence. And sure, he's with us in there. But man, he's like, my presence is really big out here because my body is out here. And we're like, I'm sorry, I don't really want to be part of that. It's a little messy out there. I'm going to stay right here where there's no mess. So freedom is not control or safety or predictable outcomes, but it is trust, surrender, and nearness to God. So I'd like you to just close your eyes. Lord, I thank you that you've already paid for our freedom. Lord, I just ask that you would give us the courage to take a baby step today into whatever area of freedom. I thank you that you do it gently and layer by layer. You're not calling us to step out of everything all at once. But Lord, I just ask that you meet each one. And as you're sitting there, I would just ask the Lord what one little area, one little baby step, as he asks, inviting, because he's inviting. It's an invitation. You can say no. What is God's invitation to you today? What baby step? Lord, I thank you that you're meeting each one, and I thank you that what's on the other side is so much better than we could imagine. Lord, help us to lay down our fears that are saying they're protecting us, to receive the truth that what you have is abundant life on the other side. I just pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
If I could have some guys move the board to the side, that'd be helpful. I really believe that is a message that will mark us if we let it, if we submit to it. And I really want to challenge us because he's calling us further. And it's beyond that comfort zone. If we could have the worship team come. The enemy attempts to distract us with two techniques. One is to make it about somebody else. Some of you this whole time have been thinking, oh, I know who needs this. Oh, I know what their issue is. That was the devil telling you that, by the way, because he was trying to distract you from that still small voice that's talking to you. Another way that he challenges you is that he says, go to Ukraine and die. That's not what he's saying. He's saying the place where he's speaking, the baby step that is taking you beyond. You heard what she said, how God lured her to begin to talk about some areas and then begin to take baby steps forward in areas of trust with driving, baby steps. And so I want to challenge you today. What is the baby step? What is the area he's put his finger on? And then what is the baby step of obedience he's inviting you to today? If we can stand. As we go into worship, let this be fixed in your heart.
For more information, go to ariselife.org or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.